Welcome to Ifa Stories, where ancient wisdom meets modern storytelling. Step into the sacred tradition of Ifa, rooted in Yoruba land and shaped through centuries of interaction with neighboring West African cultures and preserved in the Lukumi tradition of the diaspora. Here we engage the Ifa divination corpus, the sacred Odu through which Orúnmìlà reveals insight into destiny and moral order, reflected in the lives of Orisa, Irunmole, Awos, communities, and all who seek guidance. These are not distant myths, but living teachings, bridges between past and present, illuminating responsibility, consequence, and the human path. Honor the wisdom. Reflect on destiny. Journey with us into the heart of Ifa. Subscribe and let the stories speak. Learn more at ifastories.com. Introductory note. This retelling draws on a traditional account as presented in Ifism, the complete work of Orúnmìlà, by Mr. C. Osamaro Ibie. The narration and commentary in this presentation are original to Ifa Stories. Cinematic narrative of Ifa Stories. Story title: The Birth of Ejiogbe. Before the name Ejìogbè was ever spoken on earth, danger had already entered the house of his parents. What should have been a day of birth, recovery, and nourishment became a day of hidden destruction. Yet before death could complete its work, a voice arose from where no one expected it. From that moment, the story turned away from mutual danger and toward double salvation. This is a story about sacred warning, about the preservation of life, and about the way a single event can become ritual law. It begins in a household already marked by tension, and by two restrictions that made husband and wife vulnerable in different ways. What follows is not merely a domestic quarrel. It is the revelation of a child whose purpose was already active at birth. He did not come only to be born into that house. He came to prevent destruction within it. Because of that, the story does not end with survival alone. It continues into ritual memory, where the saving of two lives is preserved in sacred form. Afin, the wife of Orisa became pregnant on earth. Orisa forbade palm wine, while Afin forbade salt. Yet pregnancy did not remove the tension between them, and as the months advanced, Afin became increasingly quarrelsome. After 9 months, she gave birth to a male child. Soon after the delivery, Orisa saw that there was no food in the house for the nursing mother, so he went to the farm to bring back yams, okra, and vegetables. But he returned later than expected, and this angered Afin. She complained that he had left her hungry on the very day she delivered, and she took this as proof that he did not love her. From that grievance, the danger of the story began to take form. There is no formal divination consultation narrated in this story, yet the sacred structure is already present through prohibition, consequence, warning, and ritual continuation. The house was already governed by two restrictions. Palm wine was forbidden to Orisa, and salt was forbidden to Afin. These were not minor details. They were the very points through which danger could enter. And from those restrictions, a later instruction would be born. When Ejìogbè comes out during initiation ceremony at Ubodu, the sacrificial materials must be produced in doubles, and salt and palm wine must be added to the initiation materials in commemoration of what happened on the day he was born. Orisa forbade palm wine. Afin forbade salt. These were the boundaries already standing inside the house before the child was born. These were the warnings already present before either act of destruction was attempted. And it was through those very restrictions that the danger of the story emerged. Afin resolved to end the marriage by ending the life of Orisa. Knowing that palm wine was forbidden to him and that drinking it could end his life, she poured palm wine into his drinking water pot. Then she left the day-old child on the bed and went out to visit her neighbors. When Orisa returned from the farm, he began to prepare food for his wife. While the yam was on the fire, he went into the room and used his traditional cup, a snail shell, to draw water from the pot into which the palm wine had been poured. And it was there, at that very threshold, that the warning revealed its power. As he was about to drink, the day-old child spoke and warned him not to drink the water because his mother had added palm wine to it. Orisa-in-law was astonished that a child of 1 day could speak, but he obeyed the warning. He finished the cooking, but instead of letting the danger end there, he answered hidden harm with hidden harm. In retaliation, he added salt to the soup, knowing that salt was forbidden to his wife. Then he kept the food for her and went out to play Ayo with his friends. When Afin returned, she went to the place where her food had been kept. As she was about to eat, the child spoke again and warned her not to eat the food because her father had added salt to the soup. What had begun as grievance had now become mirrored destruction, and what had been concealed inside the house was about to be brought into the open. After hearing the child, Afin became hysterical and called on the neighbors to save her from a husband who was trying to kill her for bearing him a child. Her cries drew spectators from the neighboring houses. A meeting of the divinities was then convened in the house of Orisa-in-law. He was called back from where he was playing Ayo, and he remained calm even while Afin clung to him and tore at him. Ogun took the chair at the conference because Orisa-in-law, who would ordinarily preside, was himself the one being accused. Ogun invited Afin to state what had happened. She said that her husband had added salt to her food, even though he knew that salt was forbidden to her. When she was asked how she knew that salt had been added, and how she knew that he was the one who had done it, she answered that her day-old infant child had told her. The divinities thought she was mad, because they could not understand how a child of 1 day could speak to its mother. Orisa-in-law was then invited to answer the accusation. He confirmed that he had indeed added salt to the soup, but said that he had done so in retaliation for what his wife had already done to him that same day. He accused Afin of putting palm wine into his drinking water pot, even though she knew that palm wine was forbidden to him. When he was asked how he knew this, he answered that his day-old child had warned him not to drink from the water pot because his mother had added palm wine to it. All eyes then turned to the child, who was already being regarded as a mysterious being. Without being directly asked, the child supplied the missing explanation by declaring why he had come. Orisa koi mu emo, Afin koi je iyo. Ejìogbè mi ogbe enikon. He came into the world to save the lives of his 2 parents, and that is why he gave each of them the warning that preserved them from mutual destruction. The intervention in this story came first through the child's warning, and then through the ordered hearing of the divinities. The child stopped the father before he drank. The child stopped the mother before she ate. In that way, the 2 acts of hidden destruction were interrupted before they could be completed. Then Ogun, taking the chair in place of Orisa-in-law, restored order to what had become disorder. Under that authority, the accusation was heard, the retaliation was exposed, and the meaning of the child's action was brought into the open. The story was no longer only about a quarrel between husband and wife. It had become the revelation of a sacred purpose. The meaning of the child's declaration was that he had come into the world to save the lives of both of his parents, and that this was why he warned each of them and prevented their mutual destruction. 7 days later, when the child was to be named, his parents called him Ejiogbe, that is, double salvation. That name did not stand apart from the story. It arose directly from what had taken place. 2 lives had been preserved. 2 acts of destruction had been interrupted. And the child's first work on earth had already revealed his nature. Because this was the first earthly work of Ejiogbe, when Ejiogbe comes out during initiation ceremony at Ogbe Odu, all sacrificial materials are required to be produced in doubles. 2 goats, 2 hens, 2 snails, 2 fishes, 2 rats. When Ejiogbe comes out at Ogbe Odu, salt and palm wine are also added to the initiation materials in commemoration of the events that took place on the day Ejiogbe was born. In this way, the saving of 2 lives entered ritual memory. What happened once in the house of his parents did not remain there. It became part of the living instruction carried forward in sacred practice. This story teaches that hidden retaliation destroys order, even inside the place where life should be protected. But it also teaches that sacred warning can preserve life before destruction is complete. The child, later named Ejiogbe, did not save one parent against the other. He saved both. And for that reason, his work is remembered in doubles.